Today we're looking at a Blue Black by Akkerman, their number 7 Queen's Night Blue. As always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Now, down in the description is a link to a playlist of other Blue Black inks if that's what you're interested in taking a look at. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade rather nicely where Akkerman starts lighter, gets darker, gets lighter, and gets darker again. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some decent shading as quick goes light to dark, brown goes dark to light, fox goes light to dark. 7 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading. Fox goes light to dark. Brown goes dark to light to dark. 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show decent color variation, and we do get it. And the smear test, you could likely recover this if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are always done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Pilot Metropolitan with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The second writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no real shading, 11 seconds to dry. The medium is just a tad darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer spots of shading. The W in brown is a bit lighter than the rest of the word. The U in quick is a bit lighter than the rest of the word. Not a ton here, but it is, like jump starts lighter and gets darker, 21 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show some color variation. It shows itself a bit better with the medium, and the smear test, you probably could not recover this if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a kind of grayish line on the bottom. It's pushing its way up as a darker blue, and across the top is a very turquoise highlighter type color. Now the one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's dunked into water. And we see that that grayish blue at the bottom is really starting to form a line on the paper, bonding with this filter paper rather quickly. As it pushes up, it's much lighter, and the turquoise at the top is much more noticeable. It does mean that we expect a little bit more resistance with this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade. Akkerman starts lighter, gets darker, and gets lighter again. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. Not too bad for shading, where brown starts darker and gets lighter. Jumps starts lighter, gets darker. 7 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It shades well enough as brown goes darker to lighter to darker. Lazy goes dark to light, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, and we do get some. The smear test, you could probably recover this without any real difficulty if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it is to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it does really get kind of washed out and blurry in a bunch of it. Now, I wouldn't use it based on how blurry it's getting, but all the information is protected and is there, so you could use it in a note-taking situation if you chose to. Water's lifting some of those darker tones, but leaving quite a bit behind, like we saw in the chromatography, not really getting it off the paper. Pen flesh is breaking it down a bit more. If given more than 30 seconds, it would probably start breaking it down out of the paper. 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it. Now it only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on monocoque paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade rather gently, where brown starts a little darker, gets lighter. Quick goes from that little darker to a little lighter to a little darker, 5 seconds to dry. Medium is dark like the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. The shading looks better than it does with the extra fine, where brown starts darker, gets lighter, gets darker. Lazy starts darker, gets lighter. Jumps a little lighter to a little darker to a little lighter to a little darker, 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows some color variation, and we do get it better in the medium. Smear test, you could probably recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's number 7 Queen's Night Blue has a viscosity of 1.38, making this a wet ink. Down in the description, you'll find a link to the video showing how the viscosity and all of that's done. Let's get into the next writing sample on TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade, where you look at Akkerman goes darker to lighter to darker. Extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some light shading like the looks much darker than the word brown, and brown starts dark and gets light, where over starts light and gets dark, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does show some shading like over goes light to dark. The is a very dark word. Brown going from dark to light to dark, and 12 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows color variation, which we do get, and the smear test, you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman's number 7 Queen's Night Blue has an average dry time of 11 seconds, making this a bit faster drying than normal. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now, obviously, not really made to be fountain pen friendly. There is tons of ghosting going on in the fine, or the extra fine down here. The medium has quite a bit of bleed quite deep into it, but it is not coming through, not touching the page underneath, but making use of the back of this page not possible. That medium has tiny feathering the entire way through. It does spread to about a broad. It has no halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the medium with no major feathering. Minor feathering occurring where it goes on a bit heavier, like in the hump of the H of the, in the K of quick. So there's tiny feather spots, nothing to prevent you from using it on this paper. 1 second to dry, or sorry, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. That part. 1 second to dry. Scrubby shows no color variation. We're really not getting it. In a smear test, you could definitely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman's number 7 Queen's Night Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a nice magenta from Callifolio, their Grenat. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Akkerman's number 7? This blue-black leans too blue for me. It does offer some shading in this dusty blue. Dusty tones are something that I fall in and out of love with. That means while right now this isn't an ink for me, it may be an ink I love in a month. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I found that dry fines made a dull, uninteresting tone for me, but wet mediums gave me a much more interesting tone on the page. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to look at Noodler's Aircore Blue Black.